Today, my guest for the spooky episode of the show, you have seen her on the movie Sea of Trees. It's Ai.
Yeah, yes. My name is Ai Yoshihara. Hello.
Nice to have you on the show, Ai.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. I'm so excited.
So we're recording this before Halloween. Do you have any plans for the actual holiday?
I think I'm gonna dress up something this year because I never dressed up before, hardly ever, because I used to work these Halloween nights, but every night. But this year I'm unemployed, so
That's like a
yeah.
dark sense of freedom. You're like, I'm
Yes.
free to dress up as I want, but no money.
Yeah.
You know.
Finally.
Like, did you used to dress up when you were a kid, or?
No, Halloween. I grew up in Japan, so Halloween wasn't a thing in Japan. Now these days, it's in Japan. Halloween is huge in Japan. But when I was a kid, I didn't even know what was a Halloween until I moved to here in the United States.
Gotcha.
Years ago, yeah.
That's cool that it like has slowly over time become a thing.
Yeah.
The holiday is like migrated.
Yeah, it's crazy in Japan. I heard, because I know costume, what you call it,
Costume?
cosplay.
Oh, cosplay. Yeah.
It's kind of big in Japan, I think, and it's just people love to dress up, characters and stuff. So yeah, they have sense. Like I saw their march and like their parade or march or something. They dress up and then walk blocks.
Yeah. Yeah, makes sense.
Yeah.
I don't know if I'm gonna dress up this year because it's like LA has been mostly shut down in terms of like there's no trick or treating. I'm pretty sure Garcetti is gonna be walking around with like a baseball bat, like no fucking parties or whatever. So I don't know if it's worth it because most of the time it's like, hey, I'm dressed up as this, you're dressed up as that. That's fun. Last year I went as Syndrome from The Incredibles, which people say I look like him. And I was
wow! I was told I look like Edna Mode.
Oh my God! It's the hair. It's the hair.
Hair than Asian.
Yeah. Okay, that's pretty perfect.
Yes, I should be Edna Mode this year.
You should, and then just be calling people darling.
Yeah, darling.
Yeah. This week on Bad Reading, though, we haven't done an anime episode in a long time, and you gave us Death Note.
Yes.
As the fic in question. Now, I don't know much about Death Note besides guy gets a hold of book, writes name in book, and it kills people. Is there anything more to that show?
So this, what do you call the people who come to take you to the, I don't know how what the character called in English. The person has a what you call it? Hold on, let me. I have time?
Are you thinking like what, like a demon or like the Grim Reaper?
Grim Reaper come to take you to the other side,
the afterlife or whatever.
Yeah,
it could be stuff like the Grim Reaper. Usually it's like the guy with the robe and he's got the scythe.
Yeah.
So I think Grim Reaper is that's usually the name that we give like the one guy. Yeah. But I think if it's like the group of creatures, it's like demon or stuff like that.
The Grim Reaper is the my transition said. It said So there is that's his job, and so he has a death note, and he knows who's gonna die next, and then he has a note, and he accidentally drops it. I forgot his accident on purpose, but he drops it on Earth, and then this teenager boy, he found it, and then he just figured out, how to kill people. So if you write someone's name and the person dies, and then also you can also write what time, where, how the person dies.
Yeah.
And then just make it happen.
So like if you don't write anything about how to kill the person, is it just like heart attack? Like what's
heart
the
attack.
default?
Yeah.
Heart attack.
Yeah.
That's one of those things where you're like, if I had a hold of the Death Note, let's see, Mitch McConnell.
Yeah, Donald Trump.
Yeah. It's always like the kind of thing where they're like, don't wish death on someone. It's not that I want them to be killed. It's that I want him to have an embarrassing heart attack and shit his pants. And then Mike Pence has a simultaneous aneurysm. Can I just wish for that?
Yeah. So but that boy, he is super smart, but he is writing only the criminal's name. And then it started as from the local criminals, then he's expanded to terrorists and on the wanted criminals, and it's start to going out to the other part of the world, and FBI start looking for him and all that stuff.
That'd be one of those things where like there has to be at least one of the people at the FBI or whatever that TV show's version of the FBI is, where they're like, this is happening at like a steady rate and it's all the same cause of death. I wonder if there's a supernatural play at work, or force at play, because we're in anime and that's how this stuff works. But yeah, let's get into the story. This story comes from Archive of Our Own, and it's by someone called Mantis and the Moon Dragon. Like every week, there will be a link to the story in the show notes, both to give the artist credit and if you would like to find it for yourself. So the story is just called Untitled because couldn't be bothered to think of a title for some reason. And the summary is: Ryuk drops the Death Note as a desperate attempt at getting away from a new but very familiar Shinigami, and you're the one to pick it up. Total crack. Notes, Ryuk/reader, for all the lovely weirdos out there like me. There's some story, but honestly, I'm taking the plunge and practically writing PW/OP for myself because I can't quite find what I'm looking for elsewhere. I'm aware it's self-indulgent and probably OOC to an uncomfy level for many, but this is the hill I'm willing to die on. So it's like second person, where it's you're doing this. You, the person reading. The last time we had something like this was our Queen episode. So let's get into it. You've made first actual contact with him. Him, not the notebook. When you'd happily presented him with an oversized apple as soon as you got home one night. Just another night after thankless work and last-minute groceries. Your fingers had brushed his, and it didn't even seem to cross your mind to recoil. He dug his claws into the flesh of the fruit, suddenly very aware of his own existence, and how you were comfortable with it. And the frenzy that started in his sternum was so uncomfortable that it took time to eat the entire apple as he normally would. It had been awkward in the days following. He kept away from you, as much as he could in the status of the notebook, and had presumed that some distance would solve that terrible twisting in his gut. Your inexplicable sadness following this, because maybe you weren't light Yagami, but you were certainly observant enough to detect subtle changes, just made him feel more. Who's Ryuk? Who is Ryuk? Is that the demon guy? Is that the...
Yes.
Gotcha. Because I know Light is the main character. Right?
Light is the main guy, the teenager boy, and Luke is the
Luke, sorry.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm probably gonna butcher some names.
No worries. That's what I do all the time. I butcher American people's name all that time. Can you believe I host open mic and I butcher every single one comics name?
That's pretty fair. I mean, what's like the funniest butchering of your name that's happened by a host or whoever?
Oh my god, almost like every single one of them. So that and also even Asian guy's name, his name is Lao, I think, but I always call him Lu or Lao, and people always make fun of him. He's Asian. You mess up your Asian brother's last name. Yeah. I think that's how bad I am.
I mean, that's fair. There's just stuff that like you'll just get the name wrong. Like there was one where it was God, what was the name? It was like either like Rehnquist or Reinquist. And I would keep running into him, and I would say the wrong one. So I'd be like, Reinquist, it's Rehnquist, and then the next time I'd flip it the other way, and it just like, ugh.
Some people's names are so hard. Yeah, and it was one guy. His name was spelled Goff. Goff. Yeah, and Geoff or something. And I always call him. Yes, I didn't know like you call me Geoff. I always called him Geoff.
Well, like it's spelled Geoff, and then what the worst part was, I had a teacher in middle school with that name, and he would say Geoff, so I was like, oh, it's Geoff. And then you would meet others, and they're like, it's Jeff, like it's supposed to be, and you're like, oh, right, yeah.
Yeah, it's weird.
There's always that one thing that you learned wrong as a kid, and then when you go out and meet other people, they're like, are you stupid? Like, you're like, it's the thing that was taught to me. I'm sorry.
Yeah. And also, it's once you remember in the wrong way, sometimes you can't just, correct.
Right.
Yeah.
I remember there was like some friend of mine in college, when he was a kid, his older brother taught him his colors wrong before he went to kindergarten.
Oh no.
So he gets to kindergarten and they're like, that's purple, and they're like, that's green, you freaking moron, and you're like,
oh my god,
poor kid. That's like that is the long game right there. That is a diabolical 7-year-old.
Wow. That's something that an older sibling would do.
Do you have any siblings?
I had a younger sister, and and unfortunately she passed away. But I was not a good older sister.
I'm the younger one of. I have an older sister.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Was she mean?
She wasn't mean so much as manipulative. She would like get me to do stuff and would seem nice about it, and then I was like, wait, what am I doing here? I don't need to be helping you,
Yeah. That's nice. That's funny.
Let's see. Instead, Ryuk felt like the ground had given out beneath his feet without warning. He stayed floundering, unable to withstand your depression any longer, when he used the excuse of finding your missing highlighter and shoved it into your hands. His expression showed nothing, but your shy gratitude made the guilt that had ensnared his senses mutate. Regardless, things went back to normal. Normal, including the occasional touches as you passed him things, or clambered over to show him something. Somewhere along the line, he had wordlessly agreed to allow you so close, and then to lay hands on him for meaningless things, comparing the size of your hands, tracing the ashen features on his face, and inviting him to do the same with the scars on your arms and knees, holding him close and burying your face in the feathers cresting over his shoulders. He hated it. He loved it. Ryuk craved your warmth, growing irritated and restless without creeping toward your side of the bed and letting you grasp his hand for comfort. It was deeply frightening, but also so natural, given his addiction to forbidden fruit. And how fascinating you were to find solace in death itself. How lonely could anyone be to return his feelings and yearn for his presence at will? So you're like cuddling with death?
Yeah, I don't remember that part. They cuddled? I don't know.
The point is it's fan fiction. So they took the characters of this universe and just wrote a story with them.
Oh, I see.
So the problem with this is that, it's not the writers of that show. So they will often do crazy shit or
I see.
Crazy stuff, or they'll cross it over with another universe, or it'll be like wish fulfillment or whatever. Do you know of the term Mary Sue?
Mm-mm.
So Mary Sue refers to in writing when a character is too good at everything.
Mm-hmm.
And it comes from a fan fiction from Star Trek where
Mm-hmm.
somebody had inserted themselves, that's another form of fan fiction, into the story. And they had called themselves Mary Sue, and that Mary Sue was good at everything.
Mary Sue is good at everything, and what do you say
or just in writing, like
in writing?
Yeah. So like there's story devices like a Chekhov's gun, or where like if you introduce something early in the story, it should be used by the end of the story. So like a Mary Sue is somebody who's too good at everything to the point where it's not believable.
But it's from Star Wars?
No, it's Star Trek.
Star Trek,
Star Trek. It's not made by the people who made Star Trek. It's somebody who took those characters and goes, I'm going to put myself in the Star Trek universe with all these people.
Okay, I always get mixed up with the Star Trek and Star Wars. And then I thought you said Star Wars, and then the next thing I came out in my mind was she is incest.
No, I mean, like,
no, just she was good at everything.
Yeah, Mary Sue was good at everything. And what, like, did you ever see the Star Wars sequels? So a lot of people say that the character of Rey is a Mary Sue because she's good at lightsaber fighting. She figures out the Force really fast, that kind of thing.
I see.
But yeah, that's the fun thing about fan fiction is that you can pretty much find a story about anything with any crossover or any gross thing. There's something for everything. Like last week, the story that I found was like it was like using a fetish where the fetish is people sneezing.
Wow.
Yeah, and they took that fetish and they took the characters from the movie Tommy Boy with Chris Farley. And they're like, we're going to have all these characters sneeze, and somehow I find that sexually arousing. Wow. And that person wrote that of their own volition.
Wow.
Yeah.
The person will love me because I sneeze at least 3 times every time I sneeze. And like I don't. Sometimes it's like just keep going. I just can't stop sneezing once I start sneezing.
Oh yeah, mine are always really loud.
Yeah.
And it's not so much the sneeze themselves, not the chew part, but the is,
Like, and everybody's like, what the hell?
Yeah. Exactly. But yeah, for example, another weird fan fiction, like in our Naruto episode, the character or the person who wrote it had Naruto discover Christianity. Not sure why. But yeah, there's a fanfic for everything you can think of, pretty much.
Wow, that's fascinating. That's great.
And now this person is cuddling with death. Let's read it.
So I thought that Jesus was black, and people say Jesus was black, but now Naruto world, Jesus was Asian.
I guess so. I'm not really sure. Go back and listen to the episode.
Yeah.
It was another day, nothing to anticipate. The demonic creature had circled the apartment's exterior to stretch his wings, to feel the wind in his feathers and the oncoming rain. But when he returned, Ryuk found you sitting in your chair, devouring your phone screen with wide, unblinking eyes. It was silent, save for the muffled sound of his chains clinking and boots against the hardwood floor. In an instant, the death god was crouching down to look with you. The notification on the screen was bold and bright, begun with the name of a celebrity criminal. You still weren't blinking when he faced you, and while he knew immediately what had happened, the reality didn't quite set in until a minute later. You had never been so afraid to look at the notebook once you'd first met him. Seeing him loom over your chair like a sleep paralysis monster with a never-ending grin. You wrote a name, he trailed off. You shuddered, and Ryuk saw the notebook in the nook of the chair cushion beside your thigh. I don't want you to leave, you said, nodding. And that's the end of chapter 1.
Wow.
How you like it so far?
So far, I'm trying to understand.
So from what I can tell, it's you're in love with this with Ryuk, and I think it's supposed to be you are light.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So it's like second person, where it's first person's I, second person's you, third person is he, she, or it.
Oh, I see. Yeah. So the person is in love with Ryuk. Wow. He looks scary. So
I've never actually seen what he looks like. Is it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
He looks like a monster.
I'm googling this. Let's see what he looks like.
Yeah. If you did know characters.
Oh, that is creepy.
I know, right? This is perfect for the Halloween.
Yeah.
If you want to dress up.
To people who don't want to look him up, he looks like a football player with like my hair, like this kind of spiky hair, and then huge eyes and like the kind of Frankenstein stitches in different places, and he's pale.
And you can share the image if you have the image in front of you.
Oh, I don't know if that's going to show up in the recording. Do you know if that?
Oh, okay. I see.
Yeah. But also for the people listening, it's not.
Oh yeah, it's not. Yeah.
They're like, yeah, this is they're looking at something that I can't look at while I'm walking my dog. Awesome. All right. Yeah. So chapter 2. Like with most things, Ryuk had no idea how you convinced him to do this. It was bizarre, more so than your insistence that he savored the apples you bought, which were naturally so small that one could hardly fill him up. You'll be happier if you slowed down, you'd beamed at him, though you were still stacking them into the bowl on your dining table, emptying the bag entirely for his convenience. You'll appreciate them more, and they'll last longer. You never forced him to do anything, not with blatant demands anyway. Still, for the rest of that day, Ryuk had found himself staring at his apples hesitantly before stuffing them into his maw. One of those things he'd learned about you was how convincing you could be with just your words. Case in point, he was indulging you in your strange experience with a mere scratching of his head. So, is this how you want to die? His commonplace grin had stretched wider as he laughed. Let's see. You were lying on the carpet, completely at ease and with eyes half closed and a serene little smile on your face. Your fingers stroked through his hair, paced slow as your chest rising and falling beneath him. The stillness, the discomfort from before, when he'd first rested his body on top of yours, had eased for the most part. Once it had become apparent that he wasn't going to crush your small, fragile self with just his weight, his mind had flitted elsewhere, to the garish rug that you insisted on having, even when it was a pain in the ass to vacuum. Where it ended and the hardwood floor began, there was dust and crumbs beneath your chair from where he faced, and tears in the upholstery. The death note was resting atop the seat, now in use but still infrequently. And though you, small and soft, were hardly a force to be reckoned with, Ryuk went in and out of a trance solely because of the rhythm of your heart and lungs. Steady, strong, and calm like wings beating against the clouds.
Also, it's so interesting because of Ryuk, the way you saw him, right? It's so hard to picture him as a love interest, but this person somehow like make him so like desirable.
Yeah, like sensual. Almost.
Sensual, yeah.
It's super weird. I'm gonna put a picture on the Twitter or whatever. You have to imagine that this demon
yeah,
that is responsible for the deaths of pretty much everybody. You're trying to fuck him.
Yeah. First of all, it's just so like I can't imagine. I have to close. If I have sex with a Rook, I have to close my eyes.
Yeah. Huh? His head lifted somewhat, not enough to be out of range of your fingers, but still curled in jet black tufts. I asked if your wings ache, you repeated, Do you feel them even when they've disappeared into your back? Ryuk grunted. I know they're there. Don't need to see them all the time. Do they hurt? The Shinigami, am I saying that right?
Yeah. Perfect.
Yeah. Okay. The Shinigami stayed in place for a moment, hearing your question in his head, and yet not able to process the meaning behind him. In this case, it was less of him being not that bright and more at being stumped that you had asked at all. What did it matter? He laid his head back down, back to looking beneath the furniture from within the crook of your neck. Sometimes. You hummed, and Ryuk could almost hear the gears turning in your pretty little head. It was with some annoyance that he noticed your hand not returning to its previous task. He couldn't call what you'd been doing petting him, but your stroking had been nice. Your body wriggled, twitched a little relentlessly. Do you want to pull them out, or do you want to pull them out? It was silent. You don't have, or fuck, I keep thinking that's Ryuk, and it's sorry. You don't have to if you don't want to, was a common phrase that had become. You were either so uncertain of your words or your shyness exceeded rationality. Either way, it made Ryuk huff. To grow his wings again was reflexive. The sound of extra limbs sprouting from his back, like the grinding of bones together, made you freeze. But it was the languid way in which his scapulars rose and stretched into feathered wings had you gasping. And he couldn't help but chuckle. Humans were truly silly creatures, and you were no exception while he flexed his impressive wingspan carelessly. It's kind of like that thing where, like, you're in the bedroom with someone, and, like, because you're both incredibly horny, every little thing is interesting.
Yeah.
Where you're like, I got her, oh my god, it's amazing. Their naked chest, oh my god.
I feel like this person who wrote like into like a romance, yeah. The novel.
I can't believe they managed to make the unfolding of wings hot somehow. It's impressive, to say the least.
Yes, very impressive.
The laughter had shaken your frame, but it died down as your fingers skimmed from his shoulder and across his back, down to the base of one wing. You tentatively brushed against the end of his coracoid. Coracoid? And followed the bend of it to the wing's humerus, gently feeling the marginal coverts that overlaid the bone like raven feathers. He didn't need to breathe, but Ryuk held his breath. His spine was painfully stiff as the discomfort from the very beginning of his request came back tenfold. In the back of his mind, the god noted that no one ever touched his wings other than himself. You were so delicate, not so much grabbing and holding the appendage as you were ghosting over the area closest to his vertebral column. No more than a curious touch, but his entire body was wrapped with tingling and that terrible, maddening feeling of an itch inside his chest. He was unable to hold in a shiver, which made you draw away, hand pulled back and rest lightly on his shoulder. I'm sorry. Without thinking, Ryuk reached back to grasp your hand and pull it down, back to the slope of his wing and between his feathers. He placed you there, burying your fingers in the coverts with purpose. Quit saying that. Silence was so boring on paper, but as you gradually returned to stroking the fringes of his feathers and his hair, he felt the air change. There were things being said that needed no verbal communication, and he could feel you smile inside his shoulder. How you doing over there?
Great. I'm very enjoying it, yeah.
Glad you are. Let's see how many of these. Mm-hmm. Okay, so here's chapter 3. Mm-hmm. All right. He was lying on his side on the couch, head propped up by one hand. The furniture you could afford was small, and if he stretched out to his full size, Ryuk would have hung off both ends by a generous amount. It was far better than constantly laying on the ground in that stupid rug, though. The god reached out with one lanky arm poking at the coffee table in front until he got a good grasp of the remote and began channel surfing. Yeah, you know when you're mid-coitus and you want to watch TV?
Some people, I don't know. Maybe it's turned him on.
Maybe I've never been bored during sex before.
Oh man, I don't know how often people do that.
What, watch TV while they
yeah,
fuck?
yeah.
I'm not sure.
Old. I can't imagine if you're married for so long. Maybe like.
I can understand like having the TV on while you do it, just to either cover up the noise or maybe like just for the like background noise or something. But to do it like just while you're inside someone.
He's falling. I thought he's falling in love with Ryuk, right?
Yeah.
Having sex with the.
Or
me?
You are.
Me.
You, yeah.
Yeah, me is so in love with the Ryuk, and then someone you were in love with someone and having sex and it wants to watch TV.
Yeah,
was interesting.
I mean, well, it's Ryuk doing the channel surfing, so maybe like he's a demon and maybe he's bored with stuff or whatever. I don't know. I just will have to find out. Yeah. Okay, the god reached out with one lanky arm, poking at the coffee table in front until he got a good grasp of the remote and began channel surfing. The door to your bedroom creaking open made his ears perk. You're gonna come out? He twitched, but otherwise remained at rest. Your footfalls sounded against the dingy floor as you, or footfalls, sorry, not footballs, footfalls, like stepping. I got that wrong. Sounded against the dingy floor as you moved behind him. I would never keep a mirror in my bedroom. You puffed away a few strands of errant hair as you marched over to the bedroom and turned on the light. You squinted, half to brace against the harsh light and half to keep from actually looking at your reflection. You think the first thing I want to see in the morning is myself? You asked incredulously. It had the intended effect of making your Shinigami laugh, and you took a second to smile at your accomplishment. Better than seeing me hanging over you, I bet, he called from the other side of the room. I hate this. I hate clothes. Not a fact at all. You'd garnered a renewed interest in fashion back in school. You'd also been thinking about clothing a lot more since your new companion had, quote, appeared and never left your side. His image was a constant in your mind, regardless of the rules of possession. No one quite like Ryuk, no one standard anyway. But then when you looked at the horror-themed art and monsters from folklore, it stuck out to you that nothing dressed like him either. Which was a damn shame, to be honest. You'd never expected the Grim Reaper to be dressed like a goth punk from the 1980s, with leather and chains and shiny jewelry. But that didn't mean it wasn't a fascinating idea. Fascinating enough to push you into spending the weekend looking for new things to wear, a particular theme in mind. It made you nervous, but it was easy to engage Ryuk when you reminded him that the mall had a GameStop as well as boring clothes. Now, you sighed. This was such a waste of time. Why did I even do this? Lifting himself up by the back of the couch, Ryuk peered over the edge of the side. Nothing on TV. Never was anything on TV. Still, he was already regretting getting up from his previous position as the light from your bedroom was too much in the otherwise dim apartment. He opened his mouth ready to tell you to quit whining, to put this off until tomorrow in broad daylight, but he stopped short. You were in front of the mirror, leaning on the countertop, and over the sink with a worried expression on your face. With your back turned to the Shinigami, however, he was quick to divert his gaze from your face and to your backside. It wasn't as if Ryuk had never seen you in a dress before, but nothing was ever quite so short. Not like this. The length of the skirt was just shy of your mid-thigh. If you were to lean it over any further, he'd be able to see your panties, no problem. So, in this story, the person is female?
Ryuk is a female.
Ryuk is a female.
Oh.
No, I'm asking, because, like...
No. I don't know his sex, but I always thought he was a man.
Yeah. No, I'm saying, like, the thing with the dress and the panties, that's, like, the protagonist, meaning you. So I think the character in this story that's, like, doing stuff with Ryuk is a woman. Panties, dress, unless they're cross.
Yeah.
Regardless of your attempts at modesty, often changing behind your bedroom door or in the bathroom after demanding he wait outside, Ryuk had seen your undergarments. You could get careless, messy. Laundry was sometimes strewn on the floor, and when you got up in the morning, he almost always caught a glimpse of your underwear before you pulled on your pajama bottoms. The blankets are warm enough by themselves. I don't need pants, you said once, so easily embarrassed. This was different, though. You were too distracted to be on the defensive. Instead, you leaned forward even further, adjusting the front of your all-black outfit and revealing more of your soft skin. No trousers or leggings covered your legs, leaving you bare and showing how shapely you were. They were black and green stripes briefly visible, hugging your bottom beneath the skirt before you straightened up. You'd finally noticed him gawking, and your face went flush. You turned around, still gripping the counter with one hand to keep steady. It's not the worst thing you ever seen, is it?
Wait, so I'm confused. So I'm the female, or the Ryuk is the female in this?
I think you're the female.
I'm the female.
The protagonist is the female.
Okay.
Because they're describing your panties.
I see. Wow.
I think Ryuk is just Ryuk with the hair.
They're just gross, man. Okay.
Like
somehow I'm attracted to.
Yeah. I'm attracted to a winged football player. With that's my guy.
Yeah, that's your guy.
He'd had enough time to shift his pointed gaze from your rear up to your face, but the pout on your lips at his continued silence made Ryuk draw in a ragged breath. He rose from his seat and stretched a leg over the sofa like it was nothing, before looming closer to get a closer look at you. With your head craned back, looking up from your lashes at him expectantly and giving him a look at the extra little things you'd done. Your lips were glossy and your eyelids were the color of ash, and there was blood rising beneath your cheeks to emphasize it all. There was a little chain around your neck, basic and silver, but complimenting how shiny you'd become. He reached for you. His claws touched the hem of your dress, dipping beneath ever so slightly so he could feel the warmth radiating from you. He hadn't eaten for hours, but Ryuk swallowed a mouthful of saliva as if he was holding back. Was his eloquent reply. You blinked up at him, head cocking to the side in confusion. It looked so genuine, but it couldn't possibly be. You were acting, joking, you had to be fucking with him. His personal shyness wasn't a secret by any means. By all the punishment known to his kind, he'd had such a hard time getting used to just being touched by you. Now there you were, looking sweet enough to eat. The rumbling in Ryuk's chest took time to build into a laugh, like the starting of an engine or revving of a motor. It startled you into jumping back, away from his frame as it began to shake. You're a real riot, kid. His cackling was hollow. So, I don't know if anyone has used the term kid during foreplay.
So the writer is maybe older. I don't know. And I was amazed at how detailed.
Dude, for real.
Yeah, just saliva or his mouth, and like his, gold chain, even gold chain. How they describe it, it's like wow.
Like I know the show's called Bad Reading, but not most of the some of the time when we get the fanfic, it's not always like a badly written story. It's something crazy like this, or just something that's said. It sometimes it can be crazy. It's there's fanfics of all different qualities and colors, because again, there's no studio system. There's no keeping this stuff in check, so the quality varies wildly.
Yeah.
Let's see. But any falseness or dry sarcasm escaped you as you scoffed at him, fully offended. Oh, I guess this is hilarious to you too. Ryuk stopped eventually and mimicked your prior head tilting. Oh, come on, don't do that. Do what? You grumbled, looking away. As with his reaching for you from before, the spindly fingers that came to tip your face toward him again did not startle you so much as confuse you. You could feel his nails resting under your jaw carefully, even as you were focused on his eyes, far redder than you had seen them before. They were glowing as he stared at you. Don't pretend to be shy looking like that. Ryuk's natural hunch seemed to accentuate, so close as he leaned down toward you, and you could feel his words more than he'd hear them. He was so close, more to reiterate the irritation he felt at your attempts to remain like a deer in the headlights. Ryuk couldn't pinpoint his annoyance exactly. Was it your joking that crossed the line, or how pathetic you were, still pretending innocence? Or was it the frustration of seeing you now and knowing that you very well were so insecure that you couldn't fathom being desired at all by anyone or anything in this case? Your lashes fluttered. Okay, I'll go change then. You pulled away, awkwardly sidestepping the god of death. You headed back to your room, but not without noticing that Ryuk wasn't following you. He stood in the same spot, watching as the door shut behind you.
Your eyelashes is flattering. I like that part.
Just the line, awkwardly sidestepping the god of death.
Yeah.
Gotta get through here. Excuse me. Pardon me. Yeah, thank you. I'm gonna just gotta get through here. Guy who kills everybody. Gotta go.
Yeah.
So there's 2 more chapters to this. I don't know if we're gonna have time to do both, but I think we can get through this last one here. Chapter 4. You were a nice enough person. Ryuk didn't really care that much about you being nice or not, however. His last charge hadn't been the most polite or considerate human, even though he'd been in the presence of a literal god. Ryuk had taken offense to some of the things that Light had said to him in the past, but nothing the egotistical boy had ever angered the god. Light had been fascinating, but he wasn't worth getting upset over. Ryuk's pruny skin was thicker than that, and the Shinigami kept on haunting the kid for about 7 years, give or take. If anything, after watching you for a couple days, Ryuk had gotten close to reconsidering letting you keep the notebook, which was a first for him. Shinigami weren't really supposed to directly influence users of the Death Note. You were so mousy from a glance, and he'd acknowledged that breaking any more rules wasn't going to matter when he had to return home. Ryuk was going to be punished either way. Of that, he was very certain. But there was one little hitch that kept him contemplative, if one could call it that. When he'd ripped the Death Note from Kalikarcha? It's somebody's name. Calikarcha. Kalikarcha. And tossed it to the human world. Ryuk had dove after it with unexpected urgency. He watched it land on Earth and be claimed by it before anyone had seen his appearance. It had taken a while for the book to be found, but oddly, it was a passing waif that hesitated before picking it up. Ryuk had taken one look at you and your lifespan and reached the conclusion that you were suicidal. You looked fragile and exhausted, your eyes distant and clouded even though you were visibly young. The sun had already set, and any light left had been waning as you walked alone toward downtown. Despite not having any way to defend yourself, you were also due to die in a few days. That was before you'd laid hands on the Death Note. Before Ryuk saw something that he'd never seen in his lifetime. Something that made him do a double take before writing you off completely. Your lifespan had increased as soon as you decided to take his notebook. Dun, dun, dun. Is that a thing? Like, does getting the Death Note make your life longer or shorter?
I remember he could choose. I forgot I think he chose shorter life to gain some kind of another like power or something.
So wait, he shortened his own life?
Yeah, he shortened his own life.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I don't think, and he didn't extend his life. He was, at the time, towards the end, he goes crazy. He thinks he was a god. So he was like, and to gain another power, and he exchanged his life, 10 years of his lifespan to gain some kind of power. What was the power? I forgot. Yeah, so I don't know, but I think this story is completed.
They say that like the person who will live to 200 years old has already been born.
Oh, really?
Like in real life. Well, I mean, it's one of those things where people are like,
yeah,
medical science will increase.
Yeah.
But it's one of those things where it's like, I feel like 100-year-olds never look spry.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like if someone, like, once you get to like 130, you're like, just kill me.
I know.
Yeah.
Because I'm from Japan, right? And I've seen so many like ladies that living too long. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. I don't think they looked that happy. They were like barely,
barely lucid.
Yeah. And so I was like, I don't know. It's a good thing to live too long. If you live 200 years, yeah, I think it's hard.
Does Japan allow like medically assisted suicide?
I don't know, but they should, I think.
I know California allowed that. Like they recently passed that into law like 5-6 years ago.
That's great though. I think because if someone is suffering, they should have
a way out.
A way out. Yeah.
Yeah. My mom is a patient advocate, so she like helps people get through the medical system and like make sure people. So she works with a lot of old people,
mm-hmm.
and like there are so many people where before this law was passed, she was working, and your only real recourse aside from like suicide, which is awful, is to stop eating and drinking, which is perfectly within your right as an American, but it takes forever.
Yeah.
So after that law was passed, now she's getting like more patients who are like, all right, peace, I'm out. Like,
yeah.
Just put the thing in the veins and I'll be off this mortal coil before you know it. See ya.
Yeah, see ya. I think I saw one French lady. She did that, but she got help from the nurse, but she was the one take the poison, whatever, the medicine to kill herself. So but I thought that was her choice because she was in pain. So
right, like that should be allowed. Like if you're in pain and just let them go.
Yeah. She was living in hell. But I wait, maybe it's not allowed in Japan because I heard one of the Fukushima, the radiator, the when earthquake we had, and in the what you call it, in English, the place, radiation was leaked. Radiation was leaked, and then so the worker who trying to
prevent the meltdown.
And then but he accidentally got burned 80% of his body, and then and he was begging to kill him because he was so suffering, but they did not kill him. He lived 200 days.
Wow.
In that condition, and then they didn't kill him, so they didn't grant his wish. So
do you think by like day 50, day 60, like you're 2 months in, eventually your body's like, you know what, let's just turn the nerves off?
Yeah.
I feel like he got the message. He knows what pain is. We can turn that off. All right. A year alone was nothing for a nigh immortal being. In the Shinigami realm, nothing ever changed. Therefore, the measure of time was considered obsolete insofar as their own lives. Ryuk felt uneasy, thinking over the fact that he hadn't even been following you for a year, and yet he'd been remembering times and dates like they were significant. If they meant something to you, then suddenly they were worth remembering. You were still cute and fragile like the day he'd found you. Yet there were little improvements here and there that he could see. Your skin was healthier, the circles beneath your eyes were fading, and you were sound asleep at that very moment. Ryuk made the observation within the first 2 months of possessing you that you were a troubled sleeper. You'd often thrashed in your bed to the point where it was annoying for a long time. That problem was only a memory now. As was the issue of your sickness and your fear. You'd gained back the weight that you lost at the beginning and the color in your cheeks. You were objectively older than before after several holidays and a birthday, but you looked younger. The blank walls of your bedroom had been cluttered with colorful posters, and a collage of drawings were tacked onto the dartboard, the same one that you'd told him was useless once. He was no artist, but he contributed his part with a few optical illusions that you gushed over until he felt lighter than air. Little pots of easy upkeep plants sat in your windowsill, both still alive even after 3 weeks in your midst. Below that, the built-in heater that you'd begged your landlord to fix was making itself useful, as was appropriate. The shelves were dusted on a weekly basis, and you'd reorganized your bookshelf the day before yesterday. Ryuk had helped, of course, scanning the covers and making you point out how childish it was that he'd based his interest on the pictures and not what was inside, with a laugh. Then you'd shouted at him for tossing them over his shoulder recklessly just to piss you off. None of your swats did a thing to him, but he loved that you tried. Your meekness extended mainly to other humans. People disregarded you easily, and Ryuk considered that a crime. He could repeat some of your most memorable phrases in his head and laughed until he was hoarse. You said some stupid stuff, yet you were thoughtful, worrying for others when they didn't earn it. Soft as your skin, but you were sharp in your way. Brilliant in a way that he had never thought of before. He allowed himself to be proud of you for those things. You were a tease, infuriating while you played innocent, but gave him a knowing look that only made a flurry of sensations in his lower stomach worse. He'd hidden the worst of it from you, but your hand started skimming below the neck. You made something like a blood pump through his ancient veins from his head to his toes. It was enough of a problem that he had moments on the roof of sheer desperation, imagining you inviting him into your bed. This is so much description for I think he's cute.
Yeah. That's funny. But everybody has different taste in men.
Sure, but the god of death, You'll be watching like the second Bill and Ted movie, and then like they're playing Battleship with death, and you're like, I want to hit that.
Yeah. Wow. But I feel like they're quarantined together.
I mean, I think this was written before COVID. But that does seem plausible. You're like,
yeah.
Hey, I know you have lots of people to kill, but if you need somewhere to come back, other half of my queen bed's open.
Yeah. In a tiny apartment.
Yeah. Feel. This apartment is about like the size of my nipple. So. Recently, he'd gotten it into his head that maybe you felt the same way. It would have been funny were it not frustrating. There were also things you didn't tell him, and it irked Ryuk that he liked more than he'd like to admit. He couldn't pinpoint when that particular part of you became less interesting and more concerning. You were close-lipped about certain skin abrasions, certain moments in your life that he'd not been there for, and any mention of your family would oft put you in a trance. He hated those moments, wishing he could simply open your skull and pick the information right out of your brain. Ugh. It's a weird mental image.
Uh-huh.
At least your lifespan wasn't changing. Ryuk had floated down to the floor, hunched over your bedside. He could count the days since he started doing this, and it was only a little self-conscious at this point. The scant trees bearing leaves outside your apartment had changed colors, and the nights were getting longer than the days. Little reminders that it was too late for a lot of things. Ryuk gazed at your peaceful expression, smooth and troubled. The god of death brushed the hair out of your face, curling it over to the side of your head and behind your ear.
Yeah. The god of death.
What?
The god of death?
Yeah, the god of death is like doing the sweet little
work yeah. Hey. It's so pretty. Yeah.
He dragged his talons away from your temple when you sighed. opening your eyes slowly and blinking at him. The recognition was second nature now, and you no longer regarded him fearfully. He was an anchor for you, for though he could disappear from your sight, Ryuk never dared. The look in your eyes made his stomach drop. You were so happy to see him. You lit up with adoration, and a tug-of-war between feeling heated and feeling appreciated forced him to fidget. Voyeurism is frowned upon in most societies, you needled, probably against the law in most. He leaned forward intently. What are you going to do about it? The penalty is death. You yawned, bringing his hand over to your chest and letting him touch the bare skin below your collarbone. Your pulse slowed against his knuckles, and your natural warmth began seeping into his fingers. Soon you were drifting on again. I'll kill you in the morning, you promised. And that's the end.
Oh, that's the end.
Yeah, that's the end of this story.
Did he I get killed?
Well, no, that was you saying that to him.
Oh, me saying that.
Like you're joking, like, I'll kill you in the morning.
Yeah.
So, what'd you think, Ai?
It was, I've never expected the story goes this way, but I think it was interesting. I enjoyed it. I never thought about Ryuk as a, attractive,
like a romantic partner.
Yeah. But I thought the author did a good job describing every little details.
Yeah. It was, how would you punch this up at all if given the chance?
Yeah, how I'm gonna punch it up a little. I don't know, because he made me a woman, so let's see. Is it? I don't know. Is it? Can you tell the author is a man or woman?
No. The name is like, it's a username, and it's Mantis and the Moon Dragon, but that's gender neutral.
Yeah.
But like in the notes it says like female to male, so like you, the protagonist who's in love with this demon, is a woman. Now I thought at the beginning it was literally like, I thought it was going to be so gender neutral that it could be a man or a woman.
Yeah. I wanted to my character to be a male too, more like
Yeah, I thought it would have been cool to have it either be gender neutral or just have
neutral,
it be a dude.
Dude, yeah.
But hey, it's I still think it was like a good use of prose, and like the description of stuff was very vivid, to say the least.
Very, yeah.
And this is probably the sexiest Halloween.
But that's what a lot of American Halloween is also very sexy. Ladies
the
dress
costumes,
up,
not like the stuff you hear. It's not like you're gonna be like, I'm gonna watch Young Frankenstein and Frau Buffer and Gene Wilder and end up screwing in the background. Like, you don't hear about that for the most part.
Yeah. I think for a lot of people, Halloween is an excuse to slut it out, I think.
Well,
some people.
Thank you so much for coming
on. Thank you so much for having me. Thank you for finding the wonderful story.
No problem. And where can people find you out there on social media and stuff like that?
It's a TikTok. So you can find me most, and at Ai Yoshihara, just my full name.
Okay.
And you can find me. Please follow me on TikTok and also Instagram. Instagram is my name, Ai Yoshihara, and number 3.
Ai Yoshihara 3 on Instagram.
3. That's the Instagram, And but I'm more into TikTok right now. So I got sponsored from some all these years of being an actor, and I never got a commercial audition, but this company asked me to, use their product.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
I'm hoping we get that someday. I'm not really sure who would want to sponsor a fan fiction podcast. They're like, this week of bad reading is brought to you by, I don't know, Squarespace or whatever. Or whatever.
But I think there's so many. I think you can find someone, I think. Mm-hmm. More fantasy book, I don't know, publisher or
maybe. Guess we'll
see. Maybe, yeah.
You can find me at Atlas Novak, Novack, on Twitter, Instagram, or you can find the show at Bad Reading Pod in those same places. Thanks everybody for listening. I hope you have a happy Halloween while we're all stuck inside. Wash your freaking hands. And
yes, wear a mask.
Yeah, wear a mask and have a good night.